So we are starting a new chapter, rather, centrifugal compressors. Okay, so it is one of the major class of rotodynamic compressors, which comes under turbo machinery. The principle of operation is same as that of centrifugal pumps, but the medium is a gas. Hence, it comes under thermal turbo machines, and thermodynamic analysis has to be done. And the speeds are much higher, both rotational as well as tip speeds and the fluid velocities. They are all very high. See, on the right side is presented two views of a part of the impeller and the TS diagram showing the thermodynamic process of static and total or stagnation conditions. Okay, so before going into that, about the application, where are these centrifugal compressors used? So one is gas turbines, and another is air separation, then petroleum gas transport, R&AC, turbocharger, petrochemical, and fertilizers. So in these industries you will find. But a little more about that. Where is centrifugal compressor coming in a gas turbine? Okay, so I hope you have some understanding of gas turbines. So gas turbines work using a cycle, thermodynamic cycle called Brayton cycle. So where you have a compression process, a heat addition process, then an expansion in the turbine, then the rejection. So initially the air has to be compressed. So that is done by either centrifugal compressor or axial flow compressor. Okay, if you think of the compressor industry, the four major compressors. So you have axial compressor, centrifugal compressor. Both of them come under turbo machinery. Then you have another compressor called screw compressor. Then another, the reciprocating compressors. These are the four major compressors, and the compressor or compressed air and other compressed products are very much used, and in industry it is very much required. Okay, now coming back, our centrifugal compressors. So it is used in gas turbines, where initially the gas has to be compressed. Now it is important. Then what about the power that is spent for compressing air? You'll be surprised to find that out of the total power developed by the turbine, the gas turbine part, about 75% is used for compression. Only the remaining 25% is used for other work, like say running a machinery, a generator, or for the propulsion nozzle and all those things. So much power will be required. Okay, then air separation is, air has to be compressed, then heat is removed, then it is liquefied, and you separate that air, liquid air, into liquid nitrogen, liquid oxygen, and maybe a little bit of argon and other products. Okay, there could be huge plants for which it will be using. Then petroleum gas transport, it seems thousands of kilometers distance, these petroleum gases, natural gas, and other gases, they are transported. They are compressed and transported. So there also you require large compressors, maybe large pressures and volume flow rate. R&AC, everybody knows, refrigeration and air conditioning cycle, there is a compressor. So most of the small duty refrigeration and air conditioning plants, you will have only reciprocating compressors. But when you think of very large ones, you need this type of centrifugal compressors. Turbocharger also is quite popular these days because almost all the cars have turbochargers. So in an IC engine or a petrol or a diesel engine, you have the air intake are called the induction. The induction could be natural or forced. When you have forced induction, you have either turbocharger or supercharger. Turbocharger is a compressor run by a turbine which is run by the exhaust gases of the IC engine. And petrochemical and fertilizer industries, they also use. Okay. Now coming to the right hand side, so you have a partial impeller. Okay, then the vane is shown, the blue color. Then the velocity triangles are drawn at the exit and inlet. Now after the impeller, you have a set of blades here. Again, a part of the diffuser is shown with blades, and there may be some space between the impeller and the diffuser, the vaneless space, where also certain changes in pressure and velocities could take place. Okay, so now the diameters, D1 and D2, then the blade angle beta 2, all those things you can see. It is similar to centrifugal pump only. Okay, then you can see another view where the blade thickness is shown, and the flow is indicated. The vaneless space is also shown. Then diffuser vane, the vane width beta 2, B2 is indicated here. And finally, the TS diagram, the thermodynamic process. So at inlet you have condition 1 and not 1. 1 is static condition, not 1 is stagnation condition at inlet. The pressures P1 and P0. I don't know how many are really familiar with this type of diagram. Those who have done compressible flow elective, they must be quite familiar. Others also might have studied somewhere the TS diagram. Okay, so the impeller process, where there is energy transfer, so the condition not 1 is changed to not 2. So that is the energy addition. So total energy added can be calculated by Cp into T02 minus T01. Now this not 2 or T02 does not change. T03 is also T02, because only when energy is added, this not 2 condition, temperature condition will vary. But pressure changes are there, as you see. Okay, so you have this compression. See, compression is not isentropic, it is adiabatic. Okay, so as you see, entropy increases. So 1 to 2 is the compression process. So the static parameter, that changes from 1 to 2. Stagnation condition also changes. Okay, and between static and stagnation, the difference is the velocity square by 2 Cp. Okay, C2 square by 2 Cp. Then in the diffuser 2 to 3, there is a slight increase in pressure. Correspondingly, the velocity will decrease. Okay, then the stagnation pressure also, from P02 finally it becomes P03. Stagnation pressure gives you a measure of the quality of energy. Okay, so higher the stagnation pressure, better the quality of energy. Okay, any doubt so far?
Sir, what is O2S and O3S?
What is the 2S? See, that is the notation usually followed. S indicates isentropic. Okay, for example, 1 is there. Not 2S means if I were to compress the gas isentropically, okay, I should have taken an isentropic route, the vertical line. entropy would not have increased. I would have got the same pressure. Okay, the intention is to increase the pressure.
Okay. Yeah.
But because I have taken another route, the pressure is reached, with a lot of increase in entropy, and so if isentropically I have input all the energy from naught 1, I should have reached not this T naught 2 here. Correspondingly, the pressure also would have been higher, but that is not possible. I go in the adiabatic route where losses are there. So anywhere, from a particular point, if you continue the constant pressure line, if it cuts the previous isentropic line, there we add a letter S. S for isentropic. Any other doubt?
Oh, no, sir. Understood.
Okay. Now, instead of going more into theory, we'll work out a simple problem. A centrifugal compressor running at 12,000 RPM. As I told you, very high speeds could be there. 12,000 RPM. Incidentally, the speed of rotation for turbochargers in a car, that could be 1 lakh RPM. Very small diameter rotors. Okay, 12,000 RPM delivers 30 kg per second of air at a stagnation pressure ratio of 4:1. Okay, the impeller diameter is 0.75 meters, 75 centimeters. The inlet stagnation pressure and temperature are 1 bar and 48 degrees centigrade. The radial velocity of air at impeller exit is 120 meters per second. See, we are used to 3 meters per second, 4 meters per second in centrifugal pumps. Here it is 120 meters per second, very high velocity. The adiabatic efficiency is 80%. Determine the input power, the width, and the blade angle at impeller exit, that is that B2, and blade angle beta 2 at impeller exit. Sketch the temperature entropy diagram for the impeller flow process and the velocity diagram at exit on a partial impeller. Okay, so you can again see that same diagram I have shown here. So partial impeller is shown in one view. The second view is the meridional view. Then you have the TS diagram. Okay. Let us see how to proceed. So given m dot, diameter d2 is 75 mm, speed of rotation is 12,000 rpm, adiabatic efficiency is P01, the stagnation pressure at inlet is 1 bar, stagnation temperature at inlet is 273 plus 48, 321 Kelvin, and then the radial velocity at exit is 120 meters per second. P02 by P01 is 4. Okay. Now we have to find out the drive power, the shaft power or the drive power, beta 2 and B2. Now first you can calculate U2. Okay, the tip speed equation is used. U2 is equal to pi dt n by 60, and you get a very high tip speed. Centrifugal pumps, we have never reached this, and it won't be there. Much lower speeds. Even we have this centrifugal fans. Fans are turbo machines that produce very little pressure. There usually the speed will be less than 100 meters per second only, the tip speeds. But compressors, it is fairly high. Okay, now the pressure ratio equation P02 by P01 equal to 4. So that can be used to get the temperature at exit. So this relation is P02 to P01. It is related to the isentropic temperature ratio T02S by T01. So T02S we can get. Okay. So T02S you find out from this, it is 477 K. Now this adiabatic efficiency, or rather called isentropic efficiency, is the change in stagnation temperature isentropic process divided by the actual delta T. So we write delta Ts, delta T0 S by delta T0. So the isentropic temperature gain is related to the actual temperature gain. The stagnation conditions are taken. So we have now the value of T0 2S, then T0 1 is given. So from this adiabatic efficiency, we can calculate the exit temperature, total temperature T0 2. Is there any other way to calculate that? So you will find that in fluid mechanics or this gas dynamics, whenever some irreversible process is coming, finding out the parameters is very, very difficult. When it is reversible, any process you can calculate. Irreversible, then finally we think of some efficiency value, which by practice we know. People in the field will know for this type of compressor you will get adiabatic efficiency 0.8, so that we can estimate the temperature at exit. Okay, now the power to drive, okay, that is given by m dot Cp into delta T0. So Cp into delta T0 is otherwise the specific work, okay, divided by mechanical efficiency. Here nothing is mentioned. Usually it may be around 0.97, 0.98, etc. So we have assumed here mechanical efficiency equal to 1, and so we get the power 5.88 megawatt. See, very large power. Okay, 5,880 kilowatt. Okay. Now to find V2, the width of the impeller at exit. So from the discharge equation, V2 equal to Q2 divided by pi D2 CR2. And I think the radial velocity CR2 is given in the problem, correct? 120 meters per second. D2 is also given, but the thing is we don't know Q2. So in compressible fluid flow, the discharge varies from place to place. The mass flow rate does not vary. So you find that the discharge Q2 is equal to m dot divided by rho 2, the mass flow rate equation. So it is our job to find out the density at the location where we calculate Q2. So rho 2 we have to find out. So we'll see how it is being done. Now this Cp into T02 minus T01, that is the specific energy added, that is equal to the specific work U2 Cu2. See, the specific work is the Euler specific work equation, so that is equal to delta UCU. Now most of these machines Cu1 is 0. Okay, sometimes it will be specifically mentioned that the inlet whirl component is 0, or fluid enters the impeller without any whirl. Okay, so from that we can get a clue, and we can finally say that the specific work is only U2 into Cu2. So from which we can find out Cu2. Cr2 is given 120, so I can find out C2. Okay, now once you know C2, we can find out T2. That is the basic isentropic energy relationship. T0 is equal to T plus C square by 2 Cp, that relationship. Okay, so we can find out the temperature T2. Remember, what we are going to do is to find out rho 2, we will find out P2 and T2. Then we will use the perfect gas equation, P by rho equal to RT, and find out rho. That is what we are doing. Okay, now T2 we have determined. Then to find out P2, we use the relationship P2 by P02 is equal to T2 by T02 power 3.5. 3.5 is gamma by gamma minus gamma by gamma minus 1. That is 3.5. Gamma equal to 1.4. So finally, we get density equal to 1.64 kg per meter cube. Having known the density and having known the mass flow rate, I can easily find out the discharge. Okay, discharge equal to Q2 equal to m dot by rho is equal to 30 divided by 1.64, which is equal to 18.3 meter cube per second. So now I can calculate B2, that is Q2 divided by the area, which is pi D2 into CR2. So CR2 is 120, D2 is 0.75 meters. So this equation will get me B2, which is 0.0647 meters or 64.7 millimeters. Then finally, to find out the angle beta 2. So beta 2, we can use the relationship tan beta 2 is equal to CR2 divided by U2 minus CU2. So this you can see that here. So this is beta 2. Tan beta 2 must be CR2 divided by some U2 minus CU2. So it can be also said that it is equal to CR2 divided by WU2. Relative velocity is world common, that is the dimension. So CR2 has to be divided by that to give you tan beta 2. So finally you get beta 2 is equal to 65.4 degrees. So any doubt in this problem? Okay, let me move on to next problem. Okay, there are number of equations. I think we'll discuss about these equations later, but it will be in the PowerPoint, so you can see that they are all connected with centrifugal compressors. I just compiled it. We'll take another problem. The following data refer to a centrifugal compressor. The diameter D2 is equal to 1 meter. Speed of rotation is 5,950 revolutions per minute. Mass flow rate is 30 kg per second. Stagnation pressure ratio is 2.124. P01 is 1 bar. T01 is 298 K. The slip coefficient sigma is equal to 0.9. Mechanical efficiency is 0.97. You are asked to find out the adiabatic efficiency of the impeller, temperature of air at exit, shaft power input, the pressure coefficient 5P. Okay. Slip coefficient I think we have already defined earlier. So at the exit of a centrifugal impeller, the world component you get, world component of the absolute velocity which you get is little less than the ideal world component. The ideal world component is the one which you get assuming the relative velocity to take the direction of beta 2. So that I should say a geometrical velocity triangle. But the actual one, the relative velocity will not follow the blade, but it will slip back. So that finally you lose some amount of work component. So that some amount of work is not available to us. So you are not able to work as much as possible. So this ratio of actual to ideal world velocity component, that is the slip coefficient. Then the other one, the pressure coefficient, that is slightly different. Okay, we'll discuss that when we come to that. Again, like previous problem, first you calculate the blade tip speed using the tip speed relationship. U2 is equal to pi d2 n by 60, and you get 312 meters per second. Then assuming beta to blade equal to 90 degrees. So nothing is clearly mentioned, but many of these compressors that run very fast, they have beta 2 equal to 90. Okay, sometimes it will be specifically mentioned radial tipped. So it is for strength considerations, you keep the angle 90 degrees. So in such a case, the specific work WSP can be written as sigma into U2 square, where sigma is the slip factor, 0.9 or some value. In this case, it's given 0.9. Okay. So W specific work, that is also equal to T02 minus T01 into Cp. That is the energy input. So from this relationship, that is, once you calculate specific work, okay, sigma is known, U2 is known. So specific work, we have found that it is 87,600 meters square per second square. Okay, so now this WSP is equal to T02 minus T01 into Cp. From there, we can calculate the increase in temperature. Okay, assuming Cp equal to 1004. So finally, we get T02 minus T01 is equal to 87.3 K. Okay. So now, we can use the temperature ratio, pressure ratio relationship for isentropic flow. So T03S by T01 is equal to P03 by P01, the whole power gamma minus 1 by gamma. So in this problem, the pressure ratio is given. So P03 by P01 is 2.125. So I can get the temperature ratio, and from the temperature ratio, having known T01, I can get T03S. So once T03S is known, I can calculate the adiabatic efficiency, because that is equal to T03S minus T01 divided by T03 or T02 minus T01. Remember, T03 and T02, they are one and the same. Okay. So in this sketch, I have indicated another point 2 dash. So I said no, after the impeller there can be a space without vanes, where some changes in the properties could take place. Some amount of pressure is developed. Okay, then finally you have the diffuser. So impeller, vaneless space, then diffuser. Okay, now from the previous equation, finally we get T03 or T03S minus T01. So I can calculate total efficiency, that is equal to T03S minus T01 divided by T03 minus T01. Okay, delta of T0S divided by delta of T0. When I substitute the values, I get an efficiency 82.3%. Okay. Now, sometimes instead of total to total, people calculate static to static. Okay. Then in the denominator, usually it is T03 minus T00 because that's the actual energy input. Numerator, it may be T3s minus T1s. Okay, that may be used. So adiabatic efficiency we get 82.3%. So next we calculate the shaft power input. Okay, so P shaft is equal to mass flow rate into specific work. So 30 into 87 or 87600 divided by 0.97. So I get a power about 2.7 megawatt. So that means 2700 kilowatt. Then the last one is the pressure coefficient. So usually pressure coefficient values are assumed. That's a design parameter. In practice, people will know for a particular compressor we can use a 5P value so much. So here we are calculating academic work. So pressure coefficient is equal to Cp into delta T naught S divided by U2 square. So Cp is 1004. Delta T naught S we have calculated, so that is 71.8 divided by U2 square, that is 312 square, which finally gets you 0.74. Okay, you'll see that 5P can also be calculated by this method. It is nothing but the product of total to total efficiency and the slip coefficient sigma. So if you take that product, then also we will get say 0.74. Okay. So here the slip idea is indicated. So you have the inlet velocity triangle and the exit. In the exit, this W2 does not follow the blade angle beta 2B. Okay, instead it slips back. The relative velocity slips back, so that I have a the relative velocity. Then with that I add the blade velocity and complete the velocity triangle. I'll find that so-called Cu2 dash or the actual Cu2 is less when compared to the geometrical one, where the relative velocity makes 90 degrees with the tangential direction. Okay, any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay, then I think one thing you can go through that sheet containing a lot of equations. Okay, and maybe tomorrow you can raise the doubts if at all you have any on that. They are the basic equations which should be useful to you to solve problems.